Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sir Wade. I'm actually in the Philippines right now, so we're gonna cut back to about a week ago when I was in Vancouver for the Animation Collaborative's Epic Summer Intensive. With 8 days in total of just 10 to 6 animation lectures and stuff. It was really awesome, and I have another video coming up next week to tell you some of the things I learned, some stuff that I can share with you from the experience, which I'm very excited about. The instructors were from all over, from Disney, Pixar, ILM, Leica. We had acting consultants. It was really awesome, and while the presentations were fantastic, I can't just throw them here. They couldn't be recorded, and they're not mine to give. But I have permission from some of the instructors to talk about some of the stuff that we learned, and that'll come in next week's video. But for today, Shawn Kelly, one of the instructors, he's an animator at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, and he's one of the co-founders of Animation Mentor, the school I went to. Super nice guy. At the end of his day-long presentation, he did a Q&A, which he said that I could film that part and I could share it with you guys. So a huge thank you to Shawn for letting me capture that part and to share it, and also for all the other lessons that he shared on the day. I learned a lot. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a Q&A with Shawn Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know that I would call that like first dibs. Yeah, the question is, as a lead, do you get first dibs on messing around with the rig? Yes, you do. It's sometimes really fun, but it is a job. It's like that part of the process is like what you said, stress testing it. It's trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and trying to imagine what this character may need to do. And then, is this rig capable of doing it? And then balancing those needs with the needs of production and budgets and deadlines. And, well, I wish that it could do these things, but that'll cost this or take too long. Or, I want it to do this thing, but really that's only going to be used in a couple shots probably, and it's going to knock 1 frame per second off of that rig's speed. And that becomes a balancing act too, of like interactivity speed versus capability, and maybe that ability that I want would be better suited to be like a tool that adds it just for that one shot, like an in-shot kind of thing. But yeah, that is something that the leads do. They'll work with the riggers to develop the rigs and do some early character tests and stuff like that, which is super fun. That is very fun. Yeah. Yes?
When you're doing the like swords and weapons and you're putting the hand to the sword,
yep.
Can you ever do that with FK? Like constrain it but still have it in FK if you're doing swinging motions, or do you just deal with the sword? And
there might be some rigs that are capable of doing something like that, but not in my personal experience. If it's FK, then I would need to constrain the weapon to the hand. But you could maybe use a rig where you've got an FK arm that grabs something and now it's an IK arm that does something and throws it and now it's an FK arm. You could do something like that, but typically if it's FK, then you won't be able to constrain that hand to something.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes?
Do you ever feel limited by the amount of violence that a fight can have? Or like, how do you control that degree of violence?
The degree of violence?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, that's very project specific. Like how violent a fight can get is going to be very much what the director wants for the tone of their project. Like with that Noah shot where I suggested this thing and it's gonna squish the guy, that was too much for that project. But maybe some other project, they'd be like, yeah, that's great. So you just kind of have to ask. That's really like our job as the animator is to try to, like I said, create, like show their vision up on the big screen and add what we can to it to plus it out, a little bit of ourselves to it, but it's theirs, not ours in that way. So trying to find that line, the only way is to ask them, or to take something too far and see what they say about it. If you're doing it for yourself, then the limitation is just up to you of like, how violent do you want to get? How gross do you want to be thinking? Do you know what I mean? And some people also don't want to animate anything violent at all. And that's fine too. We've had animators at work that don't want to work on like violent stuff, and we don't cast violent stuff to them.
Usually you ask them like when you hand them the shot, like, oh, do you like doing this kind of stuff? And then if they say, yeah, no.
It's more like they made a request.
Oh, okay.
Of like, I don't really want to do like violent stuff right now.
Yeah,
and then they don't. Yeah. Yes?
Have you ever had a situation where you have an animator and they can't get a shot? Like the idea that you want them to do, they just can't get it, so you have to hand it off to someone else, or a situation like that?
Yeah, and that's happened to me also, by the way. And yeah, that's no fun. No one is happy about that. That happened to me with a Hulk shot in Ang Lee's Hulk, where he jumps up through the ceiling of this laboratory and he lands on the roof and kind of looks around, and then he jumps off. And I guess I just couldn't get it to what they wanted, and that got handed off to someone else, and they did it, and it's in the movie their way. And yeah, that feels like a personal failure a little bit, but I got good advice from, there's this awesome animator named St Amant, who, now I kind of want to tell this other St Amant story. But Tom was an old school stop motion animator who animated a lot of the most iconic, awesome stuff ever. And after that happened, I was bummed. And he came and told me, you know, not every shot you do is going to be a home run. They're not all going to be the best shot you've ever done. And sometimes you just got to learn what you can from the experience and try to do better on your next shot, and that's going to happen to everybody. And I think that that's true. That does happen to everybody. I was just talking to an animator who worked on Spider-Verse, who did like some of the coolest stuff in Spider-Verse, who feels like he's really struggling on his next project right now. And he's kind of feeling that way too. And I told him that same story I just told you. But yeah, that does happen. We try hard to avoid it. As supervisors, it's also our failing, because our job also is to help the animator get it to what we're trying to like get it to. Sometimes the supervisors also don't know, because the director doesn't know, and nobody knows. And usually we'll try to do it in a way where, like, it's never a situation where somebody's getting yelled at. Like, that doesn't happen at ILM. Nobody's gonna take you in a room and say like, you blew it, blah, blah, blah. Now you get shitty shots. Like, that's never gonna happen. Everybody's really nice, and the worst thing that would ever happen is they say like, oh, you know what, we've got these other shots lined up for you, and we really need you to get started on those, and we're gonna have so-and-so finish up this one. Sorry, I hope that's okay. It would be like that. But inside you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. The other St Amant story I'll tell you really quick is when I first started at ILM, I was hired with a group of young animators, and also St Amant was coming back to the studio. He had worked there in the old days, and he left to work on Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach and other cool stuff, and he was coming back for a Jurassic Park project, so he was in training with us. And one day at work, somebody had the idea of, hey, let's all the trainees, we can all bring in our demo reels and we can all see like what everybody has done. And everyone's like, great. And inside I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I bring in my demo reel, which I didn't have any professional work on it at all. So I didn't want to show it first because I was scared. So somebody else showed theirs, and theirs was really good. So I'm like, I'm not showing mine now. And someone else showed it, and it was awesome. And I'm like, meh. So then at the end, it's just me and St Amant. So he puts in his demo reel, and it's literally, it's Adot Walkers in Hoth, and E.T. flying in front of the moon, and Indiana Jones on railway cars, and Nightmare Before Christmas, and all this stuff. And then I'm like, here's my guy on a diving board pencil test. And, like, I felt like such an idiot. And the lesson I learned is show your reel first. I'll just tell you that. If you get in that situation, go first. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
Do you have any tips on managing work-life balance and surviving crunch time?
Yeah, work-life balance and crunch time. That is hard, and time management is kind of its own art. And so is not going crazy, or not getting beaten down is also kind of its own art, I think. Yeah, surviving that stuff. So work-life management, I have two little girls who are like the best thing in the world, and I try to see them as much as I can. Sometimes I do work longer hours, and that maybe translates into, I just got to see them at breakfast that day, and that sucked. Well, hopefully it didn't suck seeing them, but I wish I saw them more. But I just do my best to make the most of the time that I have with them, and like really be focused on them when I'm there. So if I'm home and I'm not working, I'm playing with them like all day long. That's what it is. And my dad traveled a lot when I was a kid, and he'd be gone maybe like 3 days a week and nights, which isn't ideal, but I never felt like he was absent or didn't love me or something, and I think he just made the most of the time he had when he was home. So I try to keep that in my mind. More and more studios are letting you work from home a little bit, and we can do that at ILM. So if things get really crunchy, I can go home, have dinner with the kids, put them to bed, and then work some more. That's not ideal, just because I get out of that work mode, and also it's a touch slower from home and very easy to be distracted because it's like, I really want to go watch The Boys on Amazon, but like it's easier for me to be distracted that way. But yeah, we can do that. As far as not getting beaten down, I think it's important to try to keep your inspiration tank like as full as you can. And sometimes that means like even in crunch, like, well, I'm stepping away from this computer for 20 minutes to like read a graphic novel, or I'm gonna go walk in the park, or I'm gonna go to the beach, or I'm gonna go to the zoo, or I'm gonna watch a video of my kids, or I'm gonna like do something that reminds me like why I wanted to do this, which might mean like playing a video game that you love, or rewatching an episode or a movie that you like. And something that I do at home and work is I have some inspirational things in front of me. Like at home especially, I've got these shelves behind my monitors of stuff that inspired me to get into this industry, and it's maybe like posters from my favorite movies, or memorabilia from things that I've worked on, or a picture of my grandma who's really rooted for me, or like whatever. Those kinds of things are up there. And if it's like 1 in the morning and I'm really tired, I can look up and, oh, I got that little Yoda maquette when I worked on Star Wars, which seemed so impossible. And okay, maybe if I keep at this, someday I can make something that gets some other 5-year-old excited about movies, and that fires me back up. So I think trying to keep those inspiration tanks full is good. Work-life balance is harder, but I think the better studios do a better job of giving you opportunities to be at home. At ILM, there's like a daycare at the studio. If you have kids, they could be there. You can have lunch with them, whatever. So some studios do a better job of that than others, of course. But yeah, it can be a juggling act, and that is one of the least ideal aspects of the job. Yeah.
In your observation and stuff, when is it when you look at demo reels when you decide like, oh, to give that one person a chance? Like, what is
it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've reviewed a lot of demo reels now and been in a lot of interviews, and I would say that what jumps out at me is, oh man. Yeah, we could talk about demo reels for the next hour. Really what it boils down to is if the body mechanics are believable and consistent and the emotions feel true. And if those things are in there, that demo reel is going to really stand out, because that is not very many demo reels that have both of those things. Yep.
So Rango was really great.
Thanks.
Why did it not happen again? Like making a full feature on their own, as their own thing.
Yeah, so Rango was the first time we got to make a fully animated feature. It won an Oscar. It didn't do like super great at the box office, but it also didn't bomb. I think it made a little bit of money, but it didn't make a ton of money. And guess who likes making tons of money? Movie studios. So I think that that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, we all wish that we could make another one. We loved working on Rango. It would be in my top 2 or 3 most fun projects I've ever had. It might be the most fun I've ever had at work. I loved it. And yeah, I would love to do that again, for sure. And we all would. And so would Gore. He totally loved working with us. He loved the process. He loved all of it. And yeah.
For acting, for reference and everything, do you guys like seeing on demo reels sometimes the actor and then the final shot?
No, don't show anybody. Like, do your reference, do your planning, study that reference like crazy, translate what you can into your creature or character, but then don't show anybody that. Let them just respond to the magic of your scene, and the less you can make them wonder or think about like you don't want them thinking where you got certain pieces of the puzzle, or how much is you and how much is someone else and how much is just the magic of putting it together. Like, just let it be this magic trick, and you don't want to show how the magic trick worked. Yeah. Yes?
What are the things that you did growing as an animator where you felt like you they were like the biggest growing ones that kept pushing you up higher?
Oh, that's a good question. Yoda fighting the guys was a big moment for me, partly because I requested to work on Yoda, which I hadn't done much, like asking if I could do something. I wasn't a lead or anything, and that was a little bigger section maybe. So that felt like they put a little more trust in me right then, and I also put a little more trust in myself to ask if I could do some Yoda stuff, which was, I think, a moment for me. Being a lead on Transformers was a moment for me where that was the first time I was a lead. Like I said, I never animated a walk cycle before at work, so I had to really just kind of have faith in the process and remember the safety net of the principles of animation and remember all this stuff I've been talking about and know that that's going to help me get through this, and also not to be afraid to like ask for help or ask questions or to pretend like I know how to do everything. Like it's better to, like as a lead, you don't want to just pretend like you know what you're doing all the time. It's better to, if you don't know how to do something, just like go ask. So kind of figuring out that process, I think, was a growth moment. And then supervising for the first time was a huge learning experience. And then maybe some of the bigger shots felt like kind of growth moments, like that Noah shot felt like pushing myself more, I guess. Teaching was a big growth moment. I was scared to do it, and it was also really fun. Like it was this mix of like, I'm gonna stand in front of people and talk about stuff, and now I gotta like learn. Like as soon as you might think, oh, I know about anticipation, but then when you need to really describe in depth anticipation to people, you need to learn a lot about it and really dig deep into it. And there's different levels of anticipation of what and how you can use that tool for body mechanics, but also as a lifeline of communication with the audience. And you learn so much about anticipation so that you can describe it to somebody. So I ended up learning way more about animation once I decided to try to teach something about animation. It made me grow so much. So in my personal growth, choosing to go out on a limb and try to teach, which my first attempt at that was at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. I taught there forever ago. But yeah, that made me like have to really dig into all these things that I thought that I kind of knew a lot about.
And what about like from when you were like a newbie to like getting into the professional industry? Like what things did you do then that kept bumping you up? Getting brave enough to like seek feedback was the main thing, and just finding quality feedback from somebody. My mentor Wayne Gilbert, and having the courage to go ask him if he would teach me, which was a big, super huge moment for me. Where my normal mode would have been probably too scared to like bother him or ask him something like that, and so that was huge for me. He taught me everything I knew. Yeah.
Part of that, kind of going off that question, what was your struggles that you had when you were a newbie, when you got hired and everything?
Oh yeah, I struggled with time management. I was slower than everybody, which is expected for juniors. And now on the opposite side of that, as a supervisor, if we hire you as a junior, I will totally expect you to be slower than everybody. And so I shouldn't have been as worried about it as I was. Feeling like a fraud is something I still feel like all the time at work. I'm surrounded by these people who are super talented. I've always felt like I have to try harder than a lot of the people around me to try to make my animation look good. I think that this can come a little more naturally to some people than others, but I also firmly believe that anybody can excel at it if you put in the time and really dedicate yourself to trying to learn it. And I've talked to other animators who feel similarly, that some of us feel like maybe we aren't naturally just automatically great at it, but I really want to do it, so I'm going to try so hard to learn it, to try to do it. But yeah, I still sometimes feel like I look at all these other people, and often you're just seeing, like you're not seeing all of their struggly part. You're seeing what they're presenting as like, here's the scene, or here's my shot, or here's the finished version. And you're like, damn, how do they do that? It's like so good. And any minute now they're going to find out that I'm not as good, or I'm not the right person. And I think that's a common feeling among a lot of animators, that you feel like everyone else is like really gifted and this is easy for them, and at any minute they're going to find you out. And that is a common feeling that I totally feel. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes when you're on a shot for a very long time, you kind of like, you come a bit blind to it.
Yeah.
You're trying to apply nose to it, and
yeah.
Like keep your motivation up, like when you reach that point where you're just blind.
Yeah, the blindness and motivation are like almost two different things for me.
Okay.
Where the blindness I try to treat with working on another shot, if I have another shot, or tricking my brain by looking at it in a mirror, or inverting the movie player so I'm watching it backwards, which works great for like 2 loops through, and then you're used to that new way and you can't see it again. But often like that, those first couple times watching it inverted, you're like, oh, that part's way too fast. Blindness also can be just like getting away from your computer for an hour, like I said. That can be a big part of it. Sometimes you can get through the blindness by giving notes to someone else.
Okay.
And thinking about it makes your brain like think about their shot and analyze movement in a fresh way. And then when you go back to yours, you might be like, oh, I need to fix that same thing. Motivation-wise, that comes down to like a personal effort where sometimes you feel super motivated because you're excited. Sometimes you are the opposite of motivated and you're frustrated, and the deadline is right here and it should be done. It's got to be done tomorrow, and you're like stressed out, or they just crapped all over your shot and you're starting over, and your motivation can get hammered sometimes. So if you aren't naturally just automatically super happy, woo, okay, you hate my shot, no problem, I'll do a new one, woo. If you don't naturally have that, which some people do, then I feel like you can kind of force yourself to get there. There's a real thing that's, like I've had some lower moments in life, and I use this technique and it works, it's super weird, but if you like make yourself smile, like really make yourself like really smile, and like a real smile where your eyes are getting affected, and like really, and inside you're like, like you make yourself smile for like 30 seconds, it makes you feel better. There's like a psychosomatic reaction to the muscles being activated here, especially if you can engage like the squinty eye stuff. It actually improves your mood. It really for real does. It's weird, but there's studies about it. It's really interesting. So like there's some techniques like that you could use. Sometimes you can just need to remotivate yourself by refilling those inspiration takes like I talked about, and go look at someone else's shots to get you excited, or go check out Spider-Verse, or like whatever it is that, oh, this is awesome, I love Uncharted 3, or like, I don't know, like whatever it is that you love, like re-experience that to try to rediscover the love of animation, because sometimes it might start to drip down and sink down, and you cannot do this job if you don't love it. You can't. You have to love it. Yeah. Yep.
Do you ask Wayne for advice?
Yeah, Wayne's my mentor. I asked him advice yesterday. Yeah.
You still show him your shots?
I can't, because he doesn't work at ILM these days, and I can't show him my stuff outside of, like, the stormtroopers would take me down if I tried to smuggle out a shot to show him or something. Yeah, not allowed. Yes?
With all the applications you've looked at, are there many that come from mostly game backgrounds? If so, like how do they feel like different?
No, so if we're looking at demo reels, there's no judgment or reaction in any way to what their background is. If their demo reel isn't obviously a gaming reel, I will have no idea that they worked in games. I'm not even going to look at the resume until I already think the reel is cool. So it's really going to start with the demo reel. The demo reel is great, then I'll be like, oh, let's check out the resume and the cover letter and see like why they want to work here and what they've done and who they are. And it's just, again, it's going to be all about body mechanics and true emotions. Some of our best animators have a games background, and clearly some of the best animation being done in the world right now is being done in games. So there's certainly no like looking down on a games animator. I think if games animator applied, I'd be excited and assume that they're probably going to be awesome. So yeah, there's no real plus or minus to it, I don't think. It's just all how the animation looks. Yeah, for certain projects, there might be a plus or minus. Like Avengers, where I had to do like 1 million cycles, an in-game animator that had an awesome reel, I might have thought like, oh, we are going to be doing a lot of cycles, and they probably have experience with that kind of thing. They might bring some cool knowledge to it that I don't have. You know, so sometimes there is something like that, but typically no. Any other questions? Yes?
Favorite hotkeys and Maya tools, or like plugins and stuff like this?
Oh, all the plugins I'm used to are proprietary Maya things, but I know people really like AnimBot, which I haven't used yet, but I know that's people really like that. Hotkeys, yeah, I definitely have favorite hotkeys, but I can't like describe the mail script. Okay, it's bracket, minus, select, R, no. So my favorite hotkeys would be, oh, I'll tell you one of my favorites. It's easy. It's already built into Maya. It even has like a key, I think, but I reassign it to something else. It's called Time Dragger. If you just go like make a custom hotkey and pick Time Dragger from one of the menus, what it lets you do is when you hit it, it gets you out of your normal manipulation mode, and wherever you drag, if you click and drag anywhere, including in the graph editor, it changes the timeline. So that lets me like work in the timeline. I can save some things. I hit my hotkey and I look and see how that looks in the image, and then I work on it some more. So I don't have to go over to the timeline. For my setup is 2 screens, and this screen is like the image and the timeline, and this screen is like graph editor, body picker, GUIs, and stuff like that. So if I'm over here, I don't want to like come over here and change frames and go back. So I like that one.
I think it's K.
Yeah, K to start with.
Every time.
So I changed that to be A for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. That's right. Typically it's K. To get out of it, you hit W or something to get back to your like normal manipulation tools. I use hotkeys for saving keys to different channels. Whatever channel I select, I hit a key and it'll save a key just to that axis, just to that channel. That's handy. Hiding and showing Nurbs curves is handy for characters that have Nurbs curves controls. I can just hit a key and boop, I just see the character instead of all the controls. I have a hotkey for...
Would that be a layout shortcut that you create?
No, that would just be a hotkey that turns on and off Nurbs curve visibility. Basically is what that does. I have one that'll make the character go into X-ray mode, which I mostly use to see the joints. So I have another one that hides and shows joints. But if I want to find a joint or see what's going on somewhere, or maybe the elbow control is buried in the stomach, X-ray mode, I can be like, oh, there it is. Yeah, those are, oh, I have hotkeys that turn on and off tangents in the graph editor. I find that really helpful. If I'm in the graph editor and there's tons of keys and it's spaghetti and the tangents are visible, you can't even see what's going on. So I hit a hotkey and those all go away, and I can more easily edit it and see what's going on. Any other questions? Last chance. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming.
I hope you guys enjoyed that Q&A, and don't forget to come back next week when I share a bunch of other things that I learned during the workshop from some of the other instructors. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this video, hit this button, and I will see you in the next video.